Hey mamacitas, welcome back to week 22 of my pregnancy journey. Thank you so much for joining me for another weekly update. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. I love that you guys are following me on my journey, but I want to hear from you too. So comment and make sure you like the videos as well. So we're in week 22 of my pregnancy journey. I'm very excited. The baby is finally a pound. So baby's getting big now. About 11.5 to 12 inches, so pretty long as well. So baby's about the size of a bell pepper, which is exciting to have a pound baby in me now. And also to blame for any additional weight gain that I get this week. Because I'm like, oh, it's not me, the baby's a pound now. I've gained like maybe 8 pounds so far, but you know, it's always good to have a baby to blame for that weight and not just your eating habits. But I will show you guys my current belly. So I showed y'all last week I actually have a bump now and getting bigger. So I'm very excited. I had an OB appointment today and my doctor measured my stomach from the bottom of my breast right down to the top line of my vagina, and they call that the fundal height of the baby. So, and the heartbeat is around 150. So I don't know if you believe in any wives' tales or myths about what they say about the baby's heartbeat, but the baby's heartbeat was around 160 last month, and when I had my appointment today, it was closer to 150. So who knows if that has anything to do with the gender, but baby's heartbeat sounded great, and my doctor said that everything else as far as measurements and birth weight and birth size seemed to be right on track for week 22. And so baby is sounding and looking healthy. I didn't have an ultrasound because this was my regular OB appointment. But in another week or so, I'm going to go back to my perinatologist where I will have an actual ultrasound and be able to actually see some updates on the screen as well. So I'm looking forward to that. In the meantime, my doctor discharged me with an order for another lab test. I told you I feel like I live at Quest. This time I have to go do 2 tests. I have to get between 24 and 26 weeks. I need to get a glucose test. If y'all have been pregnant before and had to get that one, it is not fun. It is a gross liquid that you have to take. And then you have to actually sit in the lab for an hour in order to wait for it to sort of take its effect. And then they test you afterwards to see how your body reacts, to really just to check to see if you have high glucose or any indicators of diabetes, gestational diabetes. The other test I have to get is just a CBC differential, which is just another blood test. They keep taking my blood, but I'll be doing that within the next 2 weeks. So she gave me this a little bit early. I had to put a reminder in my phone because pregnancy brain is real. And I don't know about y'all, but I am so forgetful right now. Like, and it's actually been the same with both of my other pregnancies. Like, I didn't even believe pregnancy brain was a real thing before I got pregnant. I used to hear friends or coworkers say like, oh yeah, I have pregnancy brain. Oh, I can't remember my phone number. I can't remember where I lost my keys. I actually lost my cell phones, y'all. So I carry 2 phones, one for work and business, one for family and pleasure. And so I was at work one day, this was with my second pregnancy, and we had a meeting, so we were actually in person. Typically, I work from home even before COVID because I'm in sales. So I typically work from my home office, and then I go out to see my clients in hospitals. But this particular day, we had a regional meeting, and so we were all together somewhere in Orange County, and I recall that I had my phones in the beginning of the meeting, and then, or somewhere around lunchtime, I could not find them. So I had my whole team helping me try to locate my cell phones. I had, find my iPhone on my iPad, and so I was able to turn that on, and we were literally tracking down my phone through the building trying to locate it, but we couldn't. It kept directing us outside, and I knew it wasn't in my car. I mean, I checked my car again, but it wasn't in my car. And so I was like, oh, I don't know, where is it? And one of my coworkers, my sweet coworker Deidre, she actually found my phones in the trash can in the bathroom. I kid y'all not. I don't know how I threw them away. I don't know if I just literally was in the bathroom and washed my hands, and while I was drying them, I just, like, I don't even know. Like, I have no idea. But that's where they were, and that's where they were found. And so I believe pregnancy brain is real. There are words that I cannot recall. Like, typically I have a pretty decent vocab, but there are words, like simple words. I don't even mean like sophisticated words. I mean, there are the most simplest words that I would use. For instance, a technical word I would use for work often, that I just cannot think of the words. I'll be doing a presentation and then I'll just like have to fumble around what I'm trying to say because I can't recall the words that I'm trying to come up with. So right in that moment, I just couldn't even think of the word remember that I'm trying to come up with. So yeah, pregnancy brain is real. Shout out to all the mamas out there or the pregnant women who are feeling me on this right now. It is hard. You cannot function at 100%. I take my prenatal vitamins, like I'm on track doing everything that I need to do. So who knows why, or if your mind is just so focused on your baby or your changes in your life, or if it's the hormones. They blame our hormones for everything. So maybe it's a hormonal change that causes that pregnancy brain, but it's real. So one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is the COVID vaccine. I mentioned it on one of my earlier videos. I told you guys that I wasn't planning to get it. I still don't have it, but I had a really thorough discussion with my OB at my doctor's visit because I wanted to know her take on it. You know, I work in the medical field, so I know that a lot of recommendations are unclear right now. Anybody can Google that and see that, like, ACOG is saying, like, for OBs, like, don't discourage your patients from getting the COVID vaccine if they're pregnant. But it's not telling them to encourage their patients to get it if they're pregnant. So you have this bright line in between, and it's like, okay, typically when they tell an OB to recommend a vaccine, it's a recommendation. Here, you have to ask for it. She has not brought up the COVID vaccine, and I am 22 weeks pregnant. So I initiated the discussion, and I asked her why, and she told me that was why. But she actually does think that I should get the vaccine. So we had a really nice discussion. I used to actually work in vaccines years ago. I worked on the marketing side and research and development for vaccines. So I learned a lot about just how they work in the body and how they build immunity. But I also know a lot about the history of vaccines, and I also know about what's required as far as the research for vaccines. So I have been skeptical. This is just my personal opinion. I am not a medical provider. This is just Miss Toni's opinion about vaccines. I'm not a proponent of vaccines unless they're absolutely necessary. So I'm not against vaccines. I have a 2-year-old and 4-year-old, and my 4-year-old had to have certain vaccines before she started preschool when she was 2.5. And so there were a couple that I denied because they weren't necessarily required, and I didn't think they had enough research, kind of like the rotavirus. Again, don't persecute me. I know some of y'all are like, you know, you need to get that one. There's a bunch of diseases out there and bugs in schools, and you're absolutely right. But for me, it's a matter of personal opinion and just my background and understanding how vaccines work, whether it's a live vaccine or an attenuated vaccine. But with the COVID vaccine, the one my doctor personally got herself, I think it was a Pfizer one. So the COVID vaccines, the two that are out now, the Pfizer and Moderna, they are mRNA vaccines. And in the past, we've had some DNA vaccines, which are actually taken from like live viruses. So one vaccine that I'm very familiar with that I used to promote when I was doing marketing for a different company was the chickenpox vaccine. That's the actual live virus that they're using. This is different with the COVID vaccine. So they're using mRNA, which is more like a synthetic. And because of that, it's temporary in the body. So it doesn't go into your DNA. It kind of goes in, opens up, does its job, makes the body aware that there's an invader, and then it attacks it, and then you build antibodies. And that's how all vaccines work, is that your body is exposed to the actual to the antigen, and then builds antibodies so that the next time that your body is exposed to that in the real world, your body remembers it and it knows to attack it so that you don't get sick, or at least you don't get as sick. So that's how vaccines work. That's how the COVID vaccine was developed, as the two that are out now, as mRNA vaccines. And so that's why my doctor was saying, you know, you're going to come back in 4 weeks and I'm going to give you the whooping cough vaccine. And so I got on my little high horse like, wait, what? I don't want that. Like, I never had that one before. She's like, girl, I've been your doctor for years. She checked me real quick and was like, you got it with the last 2. And it's something that I recommend for all my patients. The vast majority of my patients accept it, you know, and that's how our history has been with vaccines. Like, you know, once they're around for a long time, people just generally accept them. And over time, you do have that herd immunity that's built up because almost everyone has the vaccine. So it works theoretically. For me, I just felt like the COVID vaccine came out way too quickly. And I support the fact that we were able to bring them to market. When I say we, you know, the pharmaceutical companies, the government were able to approve, the FDA was able to approve and fast track them. So I applaud those efforts for sure, because we are in a crisis and we're just kind of getting out of it now. But for me personally, again, this is just my personal choice. I felt like it was too rushed. There wasn't enough data. And for me being pregnant, I just was worried about having that in my body being transmitted to my unborn child. But then my doctor made that reference and she said, you got the whooping cough vaccine with your last 2. And what happens again is that's an mRNA vaccine. We wouldn't give you a live vaccine if you were pregnant. And so this one does get transmitted to your baby, but it helps your baby develop those antibodies before they're born. And that's why there are other vaccines that we recommend when the baby is first born. Now, I will mention that I decline like Hep B, and it's not that I decline it. I just wait to get it later because I'm like, why does my child need to be exposed to these diseases the moment that they are on earth? Like, I just felt like it's so soon. I want to keep my baby pure for as long as I can. So I typically don't get the vaccine when I'm in the hospital and I deliver. I wait until later at a later pediatric appointment. And my doctor actually said that's okay. She said because something like the Hep B doesn't necessarily have to be given to your baby at birth. So I was like, so why do they pressure you to do it as soon as the baby is born? Like, it's the first question they ask you. And she said, actually, it's just because people were falling through the cracks. And this was like a decade ago, but a lot of times, a lot of parents would say no, or they wouldn't be offered that vaccine when they were in the hospital. And then when they followed up, you know, at the pediatric appointment within the next couple days, weeks, months, they wouldn't get the vaccine because there wasn't this protocol. Maybe the pediatric office didn't have knowledge that the baby never got it. Patient never thought to ask, of course. So a lot of babies were falling through the cracks. That has changed, and I was so happy for her to share that with me because I was kind of, you know, you feel a little guilty, like, you know, if this is the protocol and I'm going against it, you know, do I have valid enough reasons other than I want my baby to be pure? And so now I know that it's okay and I can wait to delay that one. And then, like I said, the COVID vaccine, she said, you know, I'm not going to pressure you to get it. Like, it's something that's available. I'm not going to discourage you to not get it, which is the ACOG, American College of Gynecologists, which is their current guideline, but no recommendation exists right now. So, you know, there's no pressure. So I didn't get it and I'm not getting it. But again, I just wanted to share sort of my background and why I've decided not to get the COVID vaccine while pregnant. I also told you guys I was going to have pictures to share this week, and my photographer is still working on them, so I don't have them back yet. But once I do, which I'm hopefully going to have them within the next few days, because then we get to do our social media announcement. Check me out on IG at official Miss Toni if you haven't already. Facebook to misstoni.w. Check me out. Within the next week, I will have the announcement up. So me and my husband are excited because he's just ready to do it. Like, he's like, I don't want to not tell people anymore. Like, I just want to get it over with. He was the main one at the beginning, like, oh, let's wait. Let's just be, you know, cautious. Like, let's not say anything, when I was like 4 months pregnant. And so now that I'm 5.5, he's like so ready. So I am too. I'm ready to tell my job. I was going to actually let my director know today, but she was in meetings all day. So I did reach out to HR and started as far as the maternity process, which, what a blessing, y'all. My job, I just found out today, offers 26 weeks of paid maternity leave. 26 weeks. Like, I'm amazed. My last company offered something closer to 4 months, which is still a lot. But I had to supplement some of that income with the state of California so that I could get paid. because there are overlapping programs which either are offered by the state that offer like job protection to make sure that they don't hire somebody in your position while you're gone, but they are not paid. And then there are some other funding that does pay, but it's partial pay. And so anyway, when you put all of it together, I think I was off for about 5.5 months with my last baby, and I was off for about 6 months with my first one. So this time around, I'm debating on whether or not I'm going to take the full leave, because not only does my job give me 26 weeks of paid maternity leave, which still blows my mind. Like, that's amazing. But I also have the ability in California to take off 4 weeks before I have the baby, or 30 days technically, before I have the baby for a short-term disability, which is covered 100% by the state. And then my job has some short-term disability that will kick in after day 7 if the state doesn't pay fully, but I believe it's 100%. It was the last 2 babies. So if that hasn't changed, then that's another 4 weeks. So that's a lot of time. And I don't know if I'm going to take the whole time off, but it's just a blessing to even know that that's available, because a lot of companies don't offer that in the US. The company I work for is actually based in the UK, and they have had these policies there forever. And they finally thought, you know, even though the US standard isn't to have that much time off, I think it's usually six weeks if you have a vaginal birth and 8 weeks if you have a C-section, and then there's some additional pay as far as paid time off, and maybe some companies offer parental bonding time as well, but never 26 weeks. Not that I've heard of. And so they decided to streamline their whole maternity leave program January 1st of this year. So I'm just delighted that I was able to already have my year in before the January 1st timeframe so that I could qualify. And now once I have the baby in July, I'll be able to take advantage of the new maternity leave program. So I am like stoked about that. That's awesome news just for women in general, for families. Like, I just think that's so forward thinking, and it's just awesome that I happen to work for a company that has that type of thinking and are making differences and are making changes in their structure. They actually didn't even celebrate MLK Day until this year, 2021. So they're making all types of strides, whether it's in the US or UK or anywhere else they operate. But it makes me proud to know that a company like that, that's been around for 100 years, is still open-minded and, you know, doing things for women, doing things for African American and minorities, and many other groups as well. So anyway, just wanted to shout out. I can't really say the name of the company I work for, but it's a huge nutrition company that many of you know and love. And they support babies in pediatric nutrition. So anyway, thank you for joining me in week 22 of my 40-year-old pregnancy journey. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And I would love for you to comment, share anything as far as you taking the glucose test. You have any tips for me? Maybe I can choose a different flavor this time, because the orange one was not tasty last time. I heard the lime one is pretty good, so maybe I'll try lemon lime this time. Or if you have any ideas about my social media announcement, I'd love to hear that as well. And again, any comments, anything you feel me on, anything you're going through or you're looking forward to going through when you get to that point in your pregnancy, I'd love to hear from you. And I appreciate you joining me this week. I'll see you next week.